Hello and welcome to Motion Graphics Basic Training. This is part 3 of a 6-part tutorial series where I'll be teaching you how to create this. In the last tutorial, we went through some basics of After Effects, what different windows do and how to animate objects. In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to create an entire scene inside Illustrator. I'm Arun Gopidas and let's get started. And this is where we get into the fun stuff. We'll actually start creating the graphics, which we'll animate in the next tutorial. So let's get started. So first we'll go to File and New and create a new document, which is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels, which is in the RGB color space. And then we can create this. Okay, so now that we are in the artboard, so now let's start with our background. So we want to have a background which is slightly bigger than this. Actually, it's not needed. We can keep it as big as the artboard. And let's not have any stroke. So we can click on the outline button and click on none. So now we don't have an outline because we don't really need it. Then I'll make it black. I think black is good for now. And so this will be our background. So now let's start to create some mountains. There are multiple ways to do it. One is with the pen, where you can click here and click and drag. Okay, so you're clicking and dragging. So what it does is it makes an arc for the line to move in. So I want to come here and click and drag again. And then probably click somewhere over here, and then I'll close this loop, and now we have a shape that looks like a mountain, but it's black right now. So we'll double click this and we'll make it slightly less dark. So this is what a mountain looks like. Sorry for the interruption, but I was just editing this tutorial and I realized that there's a much easier way to make a mountain. So let me just show you how to do that. Go to the rectangle tool and click and drag. And now you have this square, and let's make it black so that it's easier to see for now, and make the stroke to none. And now let's go into our pen tool with the P and subtract this point. And now you can go to the selection tool and go to the corner and rotate while you press shift so it snaps to 90 degrees. And now you can go to the direct selection tool again and click on this point and press shift and press on this point and just drag it down. And you can press this point again. For some reason it did not align. And so now you have a mountain. You can either keep it pointed, or you can go to this point and you can click and drag. So that should give you a good enough mountain. If you want to change these parameters, you can just click and drag with the direct selection tool, and you can get these points highlighted again, and you can get this circle with which you can edit it further. Okay, now let's get back to the tutorial. I'm sorry I missed that earlier. And next what we want to create is the clouds. So we'll go into the ellipse tool and we'll create a circle, and we'll copy it, edit copy, edit paste, or Control C, Control V, and we can make it slightly longer, and then we can again copy and paste it, and we could put it down over here. What we're trying to do is make some clouds. Okay, it might not be very evident right now there, but we'll get to it. So copy it and paste this one, and I think that should roughly do it. So we're trying to create a shape like a cloud, and now what we'll do is we'll select all of these circles and we'll unite them. And now we'll make a rectangle and create a rectangle till right about here, so that the cloud gets cut. And now we'll select both of them and we'll subtract it, minus front. So now we have these cool looking clouds, and we can copy it and paste it again and press shift and make it slightly smaller and say put it over here. So now we have two clouds, we have a mountain, and now let's try to create our watchtower. So for the watchtower, we would need to create a rectangle, and you can copy it and paste it and put it over here. So now you can press shift and select both of them and make it a slightly lighter gray. So now we can see what the different elements are, and now we can again copy it with Ctrl C and paste it with Ctrl V and rotate it to around 45 degrees and make it smaller. And now we can put it over here. I think we can rotate it slightly more. I think something like this works. And now what we'll do is we'll flip it. So we need to Ctrl C, copy it and paste it again. That is edit copy and edit paste in place, and we can right click it, go to transform and go to reflect and reflect it vertically by we don't need an angle, and you can just press OK. Now we have this cool looking wooden pillars. Maybe I think this is what a watchtower looks like. So now we'll select all of them pressing shift, and now we are going to group them together. So we right click and group it. Now we'll copy this and we'll paste in place again and press shift and drag it up. So somewhere around there sounds good, and we'll just repeat this I think once more. I think okay, so since we already copied it, okay, I think this looks right about good to me. Maybe we can select all of these things and group them. You can do Ctrl G or Command G to group it, and I think I'll make it slightly smaller. I'll press shift and make it slightly smaller. Now what I want is probably a place for people to stand here. So I'll go to the rectangle tool again and I'll create this small stand, and I want to make sure this is the center of this, so it's not a little bit longer from this side or that side. So I'll just hold everything together and I'll do align to key object and select this as my key object and align it to the center. So now that's balanced in the center. Now I want a few, so now these things usually have some grills and some railings. So I'll make one railing over here and I'll copy it and paste it probably somewhere over here. Copy it, paste it again, copy it, paste it once more. So we have these 4 grills, but now I want them to be equally spaced as well. So now we'll go into align to selection. We'll go into a distribute panel and distribute it horizontally. So now each of them are equally placed. Now we want the upper railing as well, so we'll just use this one. So we'll do Ctrl C, Ctrl V and Ctrl Shift V, and then take it to the top, press Alt and squeeze it. Okay, so I need to go zoom in. With Z you can zoom in and make it smaller. Okay, so that looks fine. So I'll copy it again and Ctrl Shift V, Command Shift V, and I'll get it slightly lower. So I think this is how these things look like. I hope that's what they look like. So now we need to go to the rectangle tool again to create, I think, lift room. It doesn't have a lift, but maybe a staircase room. I don't know. Some room. There's some room on top of this watchtower. So okay, I don't know why. So if it changes to that color, you can use the eyedropper tool to pick the last color again. I think I would want to have a security camera over here. So again, another rectangle, and then I would make another rectangle for the base, and I'll copy this and paste it again, and I'll rotate it and I'll get it over here. So now I have the two arms for the CCTV, and now I need a joint, which could be a circle. I'll come into center of the intersection points and click and drag outwards and press Alt, so that I Alt and Shift together so that I get this nice circle at the center. Now I'll use a eyedropper tool and pick the color again. So now we have the nice arm. I think this looks good. So the last thing we need to do is make the CCTV, which is a pretty basic shape for now. You can use the direct selection tool, click on this point and push it back. So that looks like a CCTV, like almost a CCTV. Now we can rotate it and put it here. So now we have this nice surveillance happening of these mountains, I guess. Somebody has a lot of time to do that. I'll just shift it back a little bit. Okay, so now that we have our watchtower, so now things are starting to get a little more complicated. Okay, so now we have a lot of different shapes. They're doing different things. So at least this is the most complicated one because there's a lot of different things happening over here. So I'll select all of this and I'll command click, I'll shift click on things I don't need. So now I only have the watchtower selected, and I'll just right click and group it so that I don't move anything else when I'm moving that. The next thing I want to do is come to the foreground. So now we have a base. Okay, so this is probably the soil, and we can make it slightly more lighter. So this is like a training camp because we are doing some basic training. So I think camp is a good place to do your training. I just click on the pen tool and drag a line from that edge to this edge. Now I can press escape to deselect it. Now right now you might see that there is a line which goes, but actually our line has a fill. So a line can't have a fill, a line can only have a stroke. So you need to flip it by using this button over here, and now we have that line. So we want to make this line slightly thicker, so we'll increase the strokes to say about 8 pixels, 9 pixels. I made it on 8. I think I'll make it 8. And now I can make another line. It doesn't have to be parallel because these barbed wires are never parallel to each other. And you can press escape to get rid of that and go to the pen tool again and probably create the last one. So these are our barbed wires. So we need to get those cross shaped things on these. So they can be made much better, but for this tutorial I'll make it very simple. And we are going to make an X. So now you can right click this, go to transform and go to reflect, and we'll choose a vertical reflect, and we can just click on copy. So now we have this X over here. Now we can press shift and select both of them, right click and group them together. I can zoom out a little bit, and now we want to copy it. So one good quick way to copy it would be to press Alt while you move it to the next location and then leave everything. So now you have a copy of that. You press Alt again and take it to a new position and press Alt again, and we can randomly start distributing these crosses to make it look like they're barbed wires. And yeah, one could be here, Okay, so I think I'll delete this one. So one thing I forgot to do here was adding a ladder. So if somebody's at the watchtower, he would need some way to get up there, right? So I'll just quickly go into this rectangle tool. So I'll click on this watchtower and I'll double click this. So now I'm inside that group. So everything else is slightly more washed out, so I can focus on what I have to do here. And I'll just click on the rectangle tool and I'll make the ladder grip. ladder handle. I'll copy it, edit copy and edit paste in place, and then I'll move it to the right. So this becomes the railing for the ladder. Now I'll just, this is a slightly more advanced step, so keep listening. Now we'll make the horizontal bar. So now I don't want to make this thing so many times. I don't want to copy and paste it so many times. So what I can do is right click, transform and move, and I'll say don't move it vertically, don't move it horizontally, but move it vertically by 40 pixels or minus 40 pixels. So now it goes up. Okay, 40 seems too much, maybe 20. Okay, so 20 seems good. And now I'll copy it. Now I can just press Command D or Control D to duplicate that step again and again till the time my ladder is complete. So now my ladder is complete. You can press spacebar to move around, and you can press this arrow to get back to my normal layer. This is my basic layer. And now I think we are almost there. So the last thing I want to do here is make a meteorite. And how I'll do that is by making an ellipse. I'll press shift so that the circle seems good. And now I'll use a rectangle tool and I'll create this tail. Now I'll zoom in and I'll click on the top point and bring it down to around the center. And I'll do the same with this one. So now we have this nice tail which looks like a comet, and I'm going to make this into a gradient, but I'll keep that for later. And I'll press shift and hold both of them and press Ctrl G or Command G or right click and group, and I'll rotate it, so say around 30 degrees. I'll move it up, and this is the comet that we have. Okay, so now that we're done with the basic shapes, now what we need to do is do the actual coloring. We'll go into our background layer and we'll open up the color window, and I've already written down these codes, so you can just copy it from that. So we'll keep the background to be 000429. So this is a hex code, so you can put any hex code over here and you'll get that color. So this is a deep purple color, I think deep blue color. So that becomes a background, and then we'll click on both the clouds and double click this again, and we'll put in the value 0D1451 and click OK. And now we have these clouds, and we'll click on the mountain next, and we will give it a color of 060940. Click OK, and we'll go to the watchtower and we'll give it a color of 2B1773. This barbed wire would have to be colored slightly differently, so we'll select all of them together. So now we'll press shift and deselect whatever we don't need till we only have the barbed wires, and we'll group them together. So unlike these where we were doing the fill, this requires a stroke to be changed. So click on the stroke, and we can change the color of this to 7D52D9. So now that's a bright purple color that we have, and this one also gets the same color, which is 7D52D9. So we have all of these things set in place. So we need this comet to be pink in color, so we'll zoom in and click on the head and change that to F20574. And now let's click on the tail. So for the tail we want to give it a gradient so that it looks like it's fading into nothing. So we'll click on the gradient over here. So now it becomes a black white to black gradient. So now we'll change the white and go to the RGB and change it to F20574, which is the same color as the head. And we'll go into so this is not necessary for you to do since the background's almost dark, but this is the neater way to do it. So you change the background of that to F20574 as well. Now what we'll do is we'll change the opacity of the second color that we have and make it 0. So now it fades from 100 opacity to 0 opacity. Now the other thing that we need to do is change the direction of this. So we can click over here and drag it till the end of the tail. And now we have a cool comet that's there in the scene as well. And I think we are almost near the end of this tutorial. The only thing that we need to do is split them into multiple layers. For that, I'll open my layers panel and now everything's on layer 1. Okay, I'll cut this first, which is the foreground, and I'll press Ctrl X or Command X. I'll create a new layer and I'll do Ctrl Shift V or edit paste in place. So now on layer 2 is my foreground. So I'll just double click on that and I'll change it to foreground so that we know what's where. I'll go to layer 1 again and I'll look at the watchtower, press Ctrl X, Command X, create a new layer and Command Shift V, and I'll change it to watchtower. Then I'll take the mountain, I'll press Ctrl X, create a new layer, paste it in place and name it mountain. And I'll take the first cloud. So I want these clouds to move individually, so I'll make 2 layers of the clouds. So this becomes my big cloud, and then I'll click on this and I'll paste it in a new layer and make it small cloud. And I'll make one more layer and I'll cut the comet and I'll paste it there. So this becomes my comet and my layer 1 becomes my background. So another thing that we want to do is going to the watchtower and going inside it and selecting just the CCTV and cutting this from here with Ctrl X or edit cut, and go out by double clicking, or you can press an arrow which appears over here to come out, and make a new layer and press Ctrl Shift V or Command Shift V to paste the CCTV camera, and we'll write as CCTV. Now the reason why this is in a new layer is because we want to be able to animate it separately. So most of these things would not be animating by themselves, but the clouds would be, so they're in 2 different layers. The comet will be in a different layer and the CCTV is in a different layer. So now we have all these layers in place and we are ready to move this into After Effects. So let's save it before that. So this is tutorial 3 and we can create one and we can name this as a frame to animate. And that brings us to the end of part 3. The next tutorial is a bonus tutorial which talks about how to create that badge or sticker inside Illustrator. So if you want to skip that one, you are free to do that because I'll be providing the source files to the sticker anyway. So until then, just see what all the software can do and consider subscribing to my channel if you liked it, and I'll see you very soon.